The disaster of Hurricane Ida. A disaster quite not like any other. And to get to that, we're going to have to first go over the feature of how hurricanes form, how they're affected by the climate change, and they are categorized, and then we go over the hurricane itself and how it's different from others. Then we go over how we can prevent this from happening and human safety standards. Hurricanes form. How hurricanes form is when the ocean water is usually heated up to 27 degrees Celsius, or in our terms 80 degrees Fahrenheit, which is hot enough to create water vapor. The water vapor goes up and then forming a low pressure area. Then cool air falls down and rolls in along with the wind, which then forms a circular formation. This starts to form into what we call tropical disturbances. However, they are not hurricanes, and few of them do become hurricanes. Climate change is affected by these. Climate change affects these storms by, aptly put it, heating up the ocean more, because more water vapor not only means a bigger hurricane, but more fuel to add to its strength. And you'll see later what I mean. Now let's go over the category. Hurricanes are not categorized as you would think. They are more categorized by the range of their wind speed. Category 1 is range from 74 to 95 miles per hour, and Category 2, 96 to 110 miles per hour. 3E2 from 111 to 129 miles per hour. Category 4, 130 to 156 miles per hour. And Category 5 is 157 and above. Now that we've gone over the basics, let's go over Hurricane Ida. Hurricane Ida was a Category 4 storm that made landfall near Port Fortune, Louisiana, with the maximum wind speed of 150 miles per hour, and with the minimum barometric pressure of 30 miles per hour. Ida was one of 3 hurricanes that, with the 3 hurricanes in recorded history of Louisiana that a landfall with a 150 miles per hour wind. The 2 others being the Laurel Hurricane in 2020 and the Last Island Hurricane in 1856. Hurricane Ida hit the Grand Island, which completely and utterly left devastating damage to the homes. And there was and to say that was a lot of damage would be everywhere else would be an understatement. The damage was in cost of both money and lives was $75 billion, and 96 people's lives were lost to that. But they weren't lost in the coastline, no. In the past 20 years, in the past 20 years, hurricanes have increased in number. The number of hurricanes only seem to have increased in events per year in numbers, or in some cases in terms of strength, as seen with Ida. The combined cost of both damaged and lives was $26.92.4 billion. I wouldn't want to be in their shoes. And 6,200 lives. Ugh. Hurricane Ida might not have been the highest in terms of damage compared to the other hurricanes we've seen, but it did have enough strength to last so long after making landfall and go so far inland. And because most would just dissipate soon after making landfall due to them being so cut off from the hurricane's main source of energy, water vapor. The higher damaging ones were active and going by coastline or just happening around islands. Ida was the only one as of now that made it so far up coast and lasted so long. That's kind of the and because of it, it left damages so severe it had its name removed. It had the name Ida retired. Now let's get to the how we can be prepared part. One that seems obvious, that should be obvious, move critical structures like power stations and such away from the coastline so they don't take the initial damage of the hurricane. And a second one that might seem a little unconventional but could be very cost effective is have more underground infrastructure so hurricanes can't have much in the form of effect on them. And would also on things like electricity, communications, that kind of stuff. Another is to make sure civilian structures have wind-rated windows, and doors, as well as roof straps to reinforce their weak points of the house. Things like window protection would also be a good idea as well when it comes to things like Ida. Another one that would also be a good investment is having flood barriers, either whether it be built in already or placed by emergency response team. Will go a long way in reducing the flood damage to the structures from the storm. There are several in development and they're already or by chance already in use. Now for how human safety can be improved. Have and make sure people will know where the emergency shelters are, or make sure those said shelters are far enough and can withstand some of the hurricane's force. Or put away or store loose items such as patio furniture, toys, and other things, so that they don't go flying around when a hurricane arrives. Unplug in-house appliances so when the eventually does get flooded, the risk of electrocution and fires is significantly reduced. And another one is make sure to keep up with removing dead branches or trees, so that way, in case the hurricane does come around, you don't have to worry about injuries from flying branches or, strange enough, flying trees. And with winds like those, that's certain to happen. Hurricane Ida is quite the storm and quite the powerful and scary one. And I think we're bound to encounter others like it. The question is, can we redo it? I think the answer is an obvious yes.